Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Good morning. Today we are very close to the completion of first quarter of our course. Here we will discuss a few items a little cursorily, which we have not discussed in earlier sessions. As you see, we will discuss articles, capitalization, and punctuation. Okay? And there will be an exercise on that. Okay? So, as I have said, here we will discuss only rudimentary ideas, only basic ideas. And those who would go deeper, they can always resort to a grammar book and follow those things in details. So those rules of articles, capitalization and punctuation we will discuss today, which are very basic, very obvious, and which you should never miss. First, articles. In English, there are three adjectives, a, an, and the, which are called articles. Okay? The basic rule is coded in this table. Rani plays with a doll. रानी गुड़िया से खेलती है. गुड़िया से बोलिए या एक गुड़िया से बोलिए, बात एक ही निकलती है. अभी तक उस गुड़िया की बात नहीं हुई है. Till now we have not talked about that doll. So the doll is coming into picture first time in the discussion. Okay. So then we say a doll without identifying which doll it is. Okay. And similarly, she likes dolls. So in this case, there is no article here. Okay. So in plural, before a plural noun which has not been identified, you put no article. In the case of singular, you put article a. Okay. If this first sound of the next word is not a consonant but a vowel, then in place of a, you put an. Okay. That is the only difference between a and an. And uncle gave it to her. Okay. Fine. So since it is uncle, so it is an. If it were brother, then it would be a. A brother gave it to her. Okay. So if the next sound is consonant sound, then a would come, and if the next sound is vowel sound, then an will come. That is the only difference between a and an. And now for a noun which has been already identified. Okay. She will cry if she loses the doll. The doll. Which doll?
Doll.
This doll. Okay. Which has already come into picture. So we know which doll we are talking about. Then it will be the doll. Come here. And why she will cry? Because she chose it from the dolls her uncle showed her in the shop. Okay. So the dolls. Because even though we have not identified all the dolls beforehand, but in this sentence itself, those dolls have been identified. Which dolls? Those which her uncle showed her. Okay. So here you will talk about the. Okay. Talk about the dolls as the dolls. Identified already here. Okay. And you notice that we are saying the shop rather than a shop, even though the shop is coming into picture first time. And there, the context, the prior identification is implied. सेंटेंस के मतलब से समझ में आ रहा है कि उस दुकान की बात हो रही है जिस दुकान से खरीदा गया था. ठीक है. So sometimes the noun coming here is identified from the context. So you can say in the shop. She chose it from the dolls her uncle showed her in the shop. In a shop also could have come here. Okay. Then that shop would not be identified. Okay. It would be just a shop. Now this table illustrates the basic rule. Okay. a new noun, unidentified till now, typically will take a or an depending upon what is the next sound, consonant or vowel. Okay. Plural in such a situation will take no article. Okay. The is called the definite article, which is used for identified objects, known objects. Okay. So here the doll, we are talking about a doll which has been already identified. Here also the same things. The dolls which are just being identified. Okay. So the above table illustrates the basic rules. Okay. And one important issue to remember in which many new learners make mistakes, and those mistakes sound very bad, and that is the rule in English grammar is that a singular noun needs an article. हिंदी में हम भले बोल सकते हैं मैं किताब पढ़ता हूँ, but in English you don't say I read book, you say I read a book, or you can say I read books. ठीक है, मैं किताबें पढ़ता हूँ, I read books, very simple, straightforward, no mistakes. मैं किताब पढ़ता हूँ, I read a book. Okay? अगर हिंदी में कहा जाए मैं एक किताब पढ़ता हूँ, सुनने में बहुत अजीब लगता है, लेकिन उसका भी इंग्लिश में ट्रांसलेशन होगा I read a book, and which is not a problem, which is very straightforward. लेकिन हिंदी में अगर आप सोचते भी हैं मैं किताब पढ़ता हूँ, इंग्लिश में बोलते समय आपको एक ए लगाना पड़ेगा. इंग्लिश में नियम है कि सिंगुलर नाउन के पहले एक आर्टिकल चाहिए. ठीक है, अगर अनजान नाउन के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं तो ए या एन, अगर परिचित नाउन के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं तो द, आर्टिकल जरूर चाहिए. ये नॉर्मल रूल है. कुछ एक्सेप्शंस हैं, देयर आर एक्सेप्शंस इन पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशंस. So a singular noun needs an article, and which article to use? As I told you that for an unknown new noun, typically you will use a or an, and if it is somehow identified, then you can use the. You will use the if it is identified old object. In the case of plural noun you can use without an article, the way we did here. She likes dolls. Okay. Now, whether to use or not to use, in the two cases the meanings will be slightly different. Okay. And sometimes it will be considered as mistake if the identification is already there, if the context is already clear and you don't use the, then in some cases it may be a mistake. Okay. Fine. As I told you, between a and n, the difference, if the next sound is consonant, then a will come. If the next sound is vowel, then n will come. Fine. And this sound of the next word is immediately next word. Even if an adjective comes in between, then this sound will rule whether it is a or n, not that sound. Okay, immediate next sound. A man, a nice man. Even with the noun, if you put an adjective, still you need this. Okay. On the other hand, if this noun is not there, just the adjective comes, then you will not put an article. Okay. So he is a nice man. He is nice, not he is a nice. Okay. So before adjective, you don't put article, because article itself is an adjective. Okay. So a man, a nice man, an ugly man. So here an, because this is a vowel. An honest man. Is this a vowel?
Yes.
Yes. The sound is vowel. Okay. An honest man. H is silent. So it is ruled by the sound. Okay. An honest man. A wonderful man. This is a consonant. Wonderful. Work. Okay. A unique man. A unique man. This is a consonant? Yes, because the sound is consonant sound. Unique. As you write, you try to write it in Devanagari script, and then you find that you will find it. This year is a consonant sound. Okay. So as you think in the terms of Devanagari script, then you clearly see what is a consonant and what is a vowel. Okay. So similarly, a university, a European, okay, an honor, because here the sound is vowel sound. Okay? So these are the main rules of putting a, an, and the. Next issue is capitalization. Where do you put capital letter? The rules are very few and very easy to remember. Still, people make mistakes because of carelessness. So please be careful while using small letters and capital letters. First is that the first letter of every sentence will be capital letter. Then I, the pronoun I. Okay, that will be always in capital. And then the first letter of a proper noun or a proper adjective. Ramesh, India, for that matter, Indian, which is a proper adjective, okay, and like that. So English, Hindi, all of these will be written with a capital letter in the beginning. Then God, or even He, for God, okay, Almighty, these words will start with a capital letter, okay. And when you report something in direct speech, you report somebody's speech as it is, okay. So then the first letter of that direct speech is capital. I asked, how old are you? If I had said, I asked how old he was, then everything after this would be small letter. In that case, this inverted comma would not come. So the moment you start a piece of speech directly with an inverted comma, first letter will be capital. Long names and titles. Here mark the important issue. Joan of Arc, okay, Saint Francis of Assisi. So there the O is not capitalized, but the important words are capitalized. Joan and Arc. And similar rule will go on for long names and titles. National Center for Educational Research and Training. National Council for Educational Research and Training. So, National N, Council C, Educational E, Research R, Training T. These are capital, but the unimportant words, prepositions and conjunctions and articles, they remain small throughout. The People's Republic of China. Here of is small. That T is capital because it is the first letter. Okay. There will be a difference here. Note the last one. This is a typical title of a research paper. A new method for solving the nonlinear boundary value problem around an aircraft wing. This A is capital because it is the first letter. The T of this the is not capital. Similarly, the A of this N is not capital. Okay? Around preposition, for preposition, these are not capitalized. The other important words, nouns, adjectives particularly, new, method, solving, nonlinear, boundary, etc., etc., aircraft, wing. So important words are capitalized. So these are the general rules for capitalization. Finally, the issue of punctuation. Of course, we will treat punctuation even more cursorily than articles and capitalization, because a few weeks later we have one full lesson on punctuation. So right now I point out only those very simple common sense ideas which you should keep in mind while putting the punctuation signs with basic understanding. Okay. So of course you know that full stop is one punctuation sign which comes at the end of the sentence, or in one style at the abbreviations. Okay. Then comma. Okay. Comma comes in several contexts. Okay. So while listing objects, while giving a pause in a long sentence, and many other contexts. And for using comma, always think logically. if you speak it, will it help if you give a pause at that place? As you speak continuously, I am giving a pause here. That means I can put a comma while writing. As I speak continuously, comma, I may need to wait at times and find out how my audience takes the speech. I put no comma in between, no pause. Okay. So think logically. While speaking, at which point putting a little pause will be important. Ram, Mohan, and Suresh were going together. So between Ram and Mohan, you will put a comma. Okay. So there are several situations, some logical, some complicated, where putting a comma helps the listener to understand. Even it helps a reader to break the sentence in appropriate places to make the meaning more clear. Okay. So there are situations where you may put a comma, may not. There are some situations where you have to, you must. Okay. Where you must put a pause. There are other situations where you may put a comma or not. Okay. Sometimes if you put one comma, then you will need to put another comma. Okay. So these rules we will discuss later in detail in another lesson a few weeks down the line. Between comma and semicolon. Okay. You put semicolon when you need to separate things to a big extent, and inside one long item at the end of which you have put a semicolon, perhaps there are many other things which have been put by separating them with commas. For example, in this particular thing, I have put semicolons here. You know why? Because see this name, National Council for Educational Research and Training. Now there are two things, research and training. Okay. If there were something else, for example, okay, for example, suppose there is an analysis here, just in case, then how it would go? It would go National Council for Educational Analysis, comma, Research and Training. Now, in order to ensure that nobody confuses this comma with this thing, I have decided that I will put a semicolon here. Because some another long name could have come. For example, in the title of this paper, somewhere some comma could have come. And I must differentiate between that comma, which is a minor pause, from the semicolon, which is a major pause. So before the full stop, if there is a minor pause, then you put a comma, and if there is a major pause, okay, at a higher level, then you put a semicolon. Okay, and of course, you know what is a question mark. Okay, so when you ask a question, at the end, this comes. And if it is in direct speech, then whether that full stop or question mark, whatever comes at the end of that speech, that spoken thing, that should come inside the inverted comma. Okay, so this is another issue where you think sometimes that whether I should put this thing here or whether I put this thing here, because you see logically that there are actually two sentences ending at this point. One is how old are you, and the other is I asked something. Okay, so both sentences are ending here, but at the end only one end marker is used. Okay, I asked something. At the end of it, a full stop should be there logically, but that never comes. Okay, so this marks the end of the sentence. If the sentence continues, then it can continue. For example, I asked how old are you when I saw him or her, whatever. Okay, so then the sentence continues with the small letters. Okay, so fine. So these are some of the things which, of course, punctuation will come again later in more detail. Okay, and of course, make note that even though only a little rudimentary ideas of articles, capitalization and punctuation we are discussing here, the assignment that you get here may have even other things. Okay, so do not assume that only those punctuation marks you have to insert which has been discussed in class. There is nothing like that. This is completely general, completely professional. Okay. Yes. The way in the previous session we discussed why it is necessary to know a large number of words. Similarly, today my endeavor it is to discuss why do we advise breaking up of sentences during interpretation and expression. When we are reading something or when we are trying to write something, then how does it help in breaking them into pieces and then interpreting or constructing our sentences. So, one example would suffice to show you the idea. You see, in long sentences, we use the policy divide and conquer, whether to interpret or to express. I have taken an example from a master author, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and this sentence, as I remember, has something like approximately 60 words. Okay. So when you try to interpret it in one shot, you cannot see the whole sentence in one shot. Okay, you have to read it slowly, and whether you want to do it consciously or not, you will actually go on interpreting bits and pieces of it, parts of it, and keep in your mind as you proceed. And by the time you finish, you will realize the complete meaning. Yeah? So this you do anyway, everybody does. For some people who know very good English, the whole thing goes continuously, and those who are not that good in English, they need to consciously break and assemble pieces of ideas. Okay? So you do two exercises with this. First, understand this sentence completely, and once you have understood it completely, then try to explain its meaning to someone who does not know English. Okay. Then you will see that as you are trying to explain the meaning to somebody, if you are not careful, then you will miss some pieces of information from here and there. And if you want to capture the entire meaning correctly, then you have to go through a process of keeping together things and then assembling things together appropriately. Okay. So when the long sentences come, complicated sentences come, they are breaking them into pieces and working out the logical relationships among those pieces is important. And you need to do it in any case. How fast you do it, how naturally, how continuously you do it, that shows your proficiency. Okay? We are coming near the close of 1/4 of this course, and at this point, I would like to mention that those students in the course who are trying to improve their English and whose English at present or at the beginning of the course was something which can be called weak, they should be very particular that just by attending lectures and doing homework and classwork, you don't learn a subject, and certainly you don't learn language. For learning a subject really well, you need to use it. Okay? To learn a language really well, you need to read a lot, write quite a bit, speak a lot, and listen. Okay? So when you want to find out reading material, you try to find out reading materials from everywhere. Okay? If your English level does not allow you to read very advanced, sophisticated books, don't worry. You will read the advanced, sophisticated books later. Right now, read those children's books which you can handle. Okay? Those who are at a little better level, they can read books for adults, okay, but written in simple English, and some can try abridged versions of classics. But whether you are trying to read books written for children or books written for adults or general books or whatever, try to ensure that you choose good books. Because if you choose bad books whose English is bad, then it will be the bad English that you will learn. Okay? So there are large number of books available online free. These are two such sites which I have listed down here, but then there are other sites also. These two I have particularly found very useful. One is online literature and the other is Project Gutenberg, and then there are other sites also. Okay, and then while reading, sometimes you will need to use dictionary, and while writing, quite often you may need to use dictionary or a thesaurus if you want to find out the correct meaning, correct usage, and so on. So for that I have linked two such dictionaries for you here, which the address of which you can get quickly. They are in the net, and of course there are very good bound volumes of dictionaries also. Okay, but in the net, if you want to find out quickly typical suitable words, then these are two good dictionaries. This is dictionary and thesaurus combined. This is an Hindi English dictionary, and I have found it very useful. There is a reason why at this time, at this particular session, I am talking about reading habits and reading literature and so on. Those who are teachers have specific responsibility in this matter, and that we are covering this entire course over 40 sessions in 20 hours. But if you teach this same course to your students in school, then you may need to cover it over a number of years. And that means it is possible that you need to cover say quarter one and then give a gap of time and then cover quarter two and so on. And sometimes depending upon the maturity level of the children, such gaps may be required. And during those gaps, what do the students do? They need a lot of practice, and the best way to get a lot of practice in English is to read books, and therefore you must inculcate among your students a healthy reading habit. And this is the reason why at this point I am talking about reading literature, because we are completing quarter one, and if you need to give a gap to the course among your students, then this is one good break point. So at this point you can take a break and then advise your students to read a lot of literature in between, so that when they come back for quarter two, they are well prepared. And it is also essential that to learn the language, one must read a lot. And in this notes for teachers, this has been mentioned here among the general notes for teachers. And make note of this particular statement: without reading through hundreds of pages, preferably thousands of pages of English text as a matter of habit or pastime, attending classes, doing classwork, homework, etc. only is not going to be of great advantage. So this is the reason why at this point I am stressing the need to read a lot of literature. And one more thing, as we complete one quarter, I have got an additional exercise for teachers. So those of you who are teachers or who want the proficiency of English as teachers to be mentioned in the certificate or in some place, from them I would expect these additional exercises also, which I will be giving at the end of every quarter. So one exercise I am giving now, and there will be another such exercise at the end of session 20, and then another at the end of session 30, and one at the end. Okay. So for this, you have to really think like a teacher and actually think for your students. How will you convince your students? How will you make a difference in the learning process of your students? And then thinking of that, you construct the answers to these questions, and for this ample time has been given, and the due date of this will be 28th July. Okay. At this point, I stop and invite if the audience here have any questions. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that. So for semicolon, by and large, what we expect is like larger pause. That is one issue, and particular sentence where you have to separate a lot of nouns or say adjectives, and we have kind of used up a lot of commas. Maybe we can use a semicolon.
Actually, larger pause in two senses. One is time duration while speaking, and the other is logical.
Okay. The second thing is this, there's a debate on this point that Ram, Mohan and I followed by whatever. Okay.
Yes.
So
After Mohan, what you do?
yes, one idea goes Mohan, comma and
Yes.
I, and the other idea goes.
That was the original old idea.
Yes.
But for last 40 years, I have found that very rarely people use it.
Yeah.
And I don't use. But if somebody uses,
It's
that
not
is
correct.
right.
Yeah.
You cannot call it wrong.
And the other question is, in general, punctuation with
Just a minute, sorry to interrupt you. Similar rule is there before etc.
oh yes, yes.
Okay, so whether before etc., after the last item that you are explicitly listing, whether you put a comma or not, original
Rule
scheme was to put a comma. Now before etc., quite often people don't put that last comma. Yeah.
So another thing is with that fundamental rules in place that we have to follow for punctuations. After all, isn't it a part of a person's style or personality in a lot of
Partly yes. Partly
situations
yes.
while writing?
Partly yes. But while following a style, in my opinion, the endeavor of the author should always be to communicate to his reader and convince his reader. Okay. So if one scheme of punctuation helps your reader to understand, then do it, as long as it is not wrong. Okay. Because after all, the success of whatever you write is in readership. Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you. So in the next session, we start with our quarter 2. Thank you.